We're ready. We are definitely ready. Good morning. Everybody's ready to go. It's crazy to think we're already July 22nd. How did we get here, right? It's been a summer and things are still changing. So we're going to talk today about some ways that we can help our kids to be ready to go back into the classroom. Again, things are changing all the time. It's not going to be that I can't be specific about what's going to happen in your particular child's classroom or exactly what it's going to look like at your child's school. But we can talk about things that we can do to help our kids, some tools that we can do to help our children. Again, as Rosie already mentioned, my name is Liz. I'm the program coordinator of education and volunteers at Young and Healthy. I'm going to put in the chat a link to our sign-in sheet. If you would please do me a favor and sign in on that, click that link and it will take you to a virtual sign-in sheet. Very easy to complete. All you'll need to do is put in your name and your email address, and it'll ask you for the course number, which is 3100. So while you're doing that, let me just introduce Young and Healthy. Young and Healthy is a nonprofit in Pasadena that has been around for 31 years. And what we have been doing for the entirety of our existence is providing direct healthcare services to children who otherwise would not have access. And we do that through all volunteer medical professionals who see our kids in their offices pro bono, which means nobody gets a bill, not Young and Healthy, not the family. So all free of charge. Then we have our insurance enrollment and support program, which is we have a professional on staff who's so good at helping families to get matched with the insurance program that works best for them. And then of course, because using your insurance can be hard, we also provide support. So if you have a question, we're still there to help you through. We become a family at Young and Healthy. We don't let our families just go. We help, we offer support throughout every question that families have, which is also one of the reasons why I love what I get to do, because we get to work with families and support them through a lot of things, such as mindfulness and parent education. And we do that because we know that supporting families and helping families to be healthy and helping families to be to meet the emotional and mental needs of their kids and themselves contributes to our long-term health outcomes. And so we provide programming such as this in order to support what we call protective factors in a family and help that to contribute to the overall health of the family. And just like you guys, we've been trying to figure this out. We're still at work. You can tell probably I'm from home. A lot of my coworkers we're still doing things in a hybrid kind of a way, but we're still here. So if you need services, please reach out. Before we get started, I want to start with a breathing exercise that works, that I love. We're using it at a program that's happening this summer. Maybe some of you have heard of it, our Ready 21 program. But I love this because it really gets everybody kind of in the right headspace to get some work done. Okay, and some mindfulness exercise. It's more of an active mindfulness exercise. I encourage you to you can teach your kids this exercise. You can use it yourself. Today, I'm going to ask you to kind of do the hand motions. I can't see anybody, but I'm going to trust that you're doing it with me. So the first thing I'm going to do is ask you to sit wherever you're sitting or standing, get comfortable. Notice where your body might be making contact with maybe your chair or the floor, and just be aware of that for a second. And then first thing I'm going to do is ask you to put your hands out like a stop sign, and you're going to say, I stop. And then you're going to put your hands on your belly and say, I feel my breathing. And while you're doing that, just notice your breathing. Notice how fast maybe you're breathing. Maybe you can slow it down a tiny bit. And then we say out loud, peaceful and calm, I am ready to get back to work. And in that way, we tell our brains what we want to do, right? We let our brains know, hey, I need you to work with me here because we're going to get back to work. We're going to leave what's happening over there in the kitchen. We're going to not pay attention to what's going on, maybe, you know, on our phone screen or whatnot. But we're going to stop and we're ready to get back to work. We've calmed ourselves and we're ready. And this, as you can see, this is a great one to use with our kids because it helps them to get in the right headspace to be able to get to work or to be able to have a hard conversation with my sister or brother. Or maybe I'm ready to, you know, calm down now and talk to mom about whatever's going on. Okay. So it's a great one to kind of get focused in the family. There are still so many unknowns, right? Every day we wake up and there's something different still. I think we thought it was over, right? When the masks kind of went away for the most part, and we were starting to get comfortable. At least I was, right? I was starting to get comfortable, starting to feel like, oh, things are kind of getting back to normal. This doesn't feel so awkward anymore. And then this morning, you know, this week and the last weekend, it was, you know, put your masks back on in LA County. And this morning it was put your masks back on in Pasadena. So, and the number of cases of the variant are rising. There are still so many unknowns. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like on August 12th when our kids go back to school. There's no way for us to possibly know. We know what the plans are right now. We know that we plan to have kids all back in school, that they'll all have to wear masks, but things could change. So we can't talk about anything indefinites as far as what that's going to look like. I wish I could, but we just can't. But what we can, there are still ways though that we can prepare our kids to go back to school in a few weeks, right? Based on what we know today, we can practice, we can start getting ready. We can start using some back to school tools, right? We've got some tools that we can use. The good thing about all of this, guys, is that even if things keep changing, these tools remain constant. These tools don't need to change based on what the plan for reopening looks like or what's going to happen, right? These tools will all still work. And these are all great tools for us to have as we navigate life in general, as with any situation that comes up with our kids. So, you know, we can definitely go through all of this, and this will be very useful. All of the research, I have done a lot of research in preparation for today. And I have to tell you, all of the research says, don't worry so much about academics. We need to worry mostly, not worry even, we need to be concerned and take action toward getting connected and making sure our kids feel comfortable, right? It's about feeling comfortable. We can't learn if we don't feel comfortable. Dr. Bruce Perry, this quote that you're seeing on your screen now, Dr. Bruce Perry is one of the most respected developmental neurologists that there is. And he is magnificent and so smart and very well published. And he says the most important thing you can do with your kids is play with them, because he knows that that means that our kids then are feeling relaxed and connected and comfortable. And that's what we need for our kids to do, because from the moment we're born, we're wired to connect with each other, right? Everything works better in our brain when we have human connection. Our brain function, our productivity, our learning, our coping, all of it feels better when we're connected. It works better when we feel and experience human connection. Excuse me. So many of us have been noticing that our brains are working extra hard right now, because our brains work extra hard during big adjustments, okay? Our brains don't like to feel like we're out of control. We all kind of, I mean, listen, raise a hand, right? How many of us feel out of control? As an aside, before I continue, please feel free to message in the chat if you have a question or a comment. I love when we can have that kind of interaction. And I'm just so happy to see all of you guys here this morning. But please do, put messages in the chat, or feel free to unmute yourself or use the raise your hand feature, and then we can have a conversation. But please feel free to do that. Okay, back to our brains working hard during big adjustments. That loss of control, our brains don't like that, right? And how many of us are feeling like we're not in control? I know I feel like I'm out of control. right? I don't know what to do. I don't know what's coming at me next. I don't have control over how I do some things because there are so many different things going on around us, right? So that lack of control. And then we also have a lack of routine, right? Things are different. We're not quite sure how this is going to look. And so every day has been a little different. And then here's the other thing. We've gotten kind of comfortable in a routine again, right? We've kind of gotten comfortable with being home maybe, right? Maybe we don't like it, but we've kind of established a routine again. And now, so getting back into going back to school, to in-person school, that's another change in our routine because we've gotten comfortable over the last 18 months or so, right? In a way. And so we're going to look at another change in routine, which our brain, that loss of control and that lack of routine causes our brain to work extra hard. And it also causes us to interpret what's going on around us as a lack of safety, right? We feel like our safety, our feelings of safety have been undermined by all of this. And our brain doesn't do so well when we feel like we're not safe. Some of the stuff you may have noticed, and we have to keep talking about this because it keeps happening, right? Things change and kind of we get a spike in some of these things. Maybe we've had some time when we felt a little bit more comfortable, but then something changes and it's kind of spikes a little bit like our COVID rates, right? We see a rise. But maybe some of the things you've noticed, your sleep's weird, right? Those weird, I need to sleep more, or I can't sleep at night, or maybe you are having weird dreams. I know the other night I had to wake my husband up because he was having like talking out in his sleep. He was having a dream that his body had been taken over by aliens or something. It was crazy. Right. But all these weird dreams, I dream that I'm eating the dog's treats, the puppy's treats. So weird dreams, weird sleep, all of that stuff. Maybe during the day, you notice you can't remember stuff, right? Maybe you're recognizing that you have to write a lot more down. I've gone through so many notebooks because I feel I have to write everything down right now. Everything has to be written down. And remember, our kids are feeling this too, you guys. Maybe you don't feel productive, right? Because you can't remember stuff. And then you have this shorter attention span, right? Which contributes to us not feeling so productive. We feel like we can't get as much done in a day. Maybe you have a smaller window of tolerance, right? You're noticing that your fuse is shorter. You kind of lose your cool a little bit more easily, right? Why is this happening? It's because our brain is working hard to get control, to find a routine, and to feel safe. And when our brain doesn't feel safe, when our brain interprets things as a lack of safety, then we go into a place where we don't have thinking and learning capability. And what might this look like for our kids? Maybe what you're seeing, what they can't tell you, hey, I'm having a hard time right now. We're going to talk about that. But maybe what you're noticing is that their behavior is different. Maybe you're noticing that your kids are a little bit more aggressive, right? They might be biting or hitting, or maybe they're withdrawing, hiding, not wanting to participate in things, or they're more demanding. They're at you're tugging on your shirt all day long. I need. Maybe they're saying that they have somatic complaints, which are physical complaints. We know that when people experience higher levels of stress and anxiety, that they also produce more stomach acid, and that leads for us to have tummy aches. Or maybe they're having headaches, stress headaches, or blue light headaches. We're looking at our complete computer screens all the time. You might notice that your kids have like some fear about things that doesn't make sense to you, right? I had a mom who said, oh, my kids don't want to go to the grocery store. That they're afraid to go to the grocery store. My answer to that is, yes, so am I sometimes, right? It's scary. There are a lot of things to be afraid of right now. So if our kids are experiencing more fear, then that's kind of natural and normal. There's some things we can do to help them through that. When we're in this midbrain, when we're in that place where we feel unsafe, we also have trouble learning new skills and self-regulating, right? That self-regulation piece is the piece where we go, oh gosh, I'm starting to feel a certain kind of way. I need to do something to take care of myself. Or I'm starting to feel a certain kind of way. I need to back up and re-attack this, right? So come at it a different way. We have trouble learning new skills because we're caught in that fight, flight, freeze, right? Maybe many of you have heard about fight or flight. That's what keeps us in our midbrain, right? We're afraid. We're ready to fight the bear, We're ready to either fight the bear or run from the bear, or now the bear is scaring me. Maybe if I just play dead, it'll think I'm not here, right? That fight, flight, freeze response. We're involved in that. There's no bear, but there is this thing that's kind of behind us, that's around us, that's looming over us, that makes us feel unsafe. Maybe your kids are like kind of tantruming a little bit more. I know I'm personally tantruming a little bit more. Tantrums are not limited to little kids. I have thrown, middle-aged women tantrums myself. It happens. It happens to the best of us. But because it's hard to communicate what you're feeling, and so you have to act out, right? Our poor social skills, not only because we've been away for a long time, we have to relearn how to be social with one another, right? What are the parameters? I went to a dinner last week, and I was invited to, it was in somebody's backyard. It was awkward for the first half hour, 45 minutes, right? Like, some people want to touch, some people don't want to touch, some people wanted to wear their mask. Do you pass the food at the table? Like, how does this work? So we're all learning new things. It makes us feel a little bit like we don't feel so great about ourselves because we're not sure, right? When you're unsure, you don't feel so great about yourself. So it contributes to maybe having low self-esteem. And then we might see more separation anxiety. Our kids have been so close to us, right, for the last year and a half, sometimes maybe too close. But we know that separation anxiety can play a part in that. We might start seeing that. And unfortunately, as I've already said, things are still changing daily. And that leads us to having big feelings. And big feelings can be overwhelming, right? Doesn't matter why we're having them really in the moment. It just matters that we have the feelings, and we need to connect with those feelings. And what are some of those feelings? Anything that is like unsafe or unsure, uncomfortable, upset, worried, or disappointed. All of those feelings our brain interprets as being unsafe, and then it causes us to have a physical response. It's literally physical. It's not something that we can necessarily control all the time. It's a physical response. When you feel unsafe, your brain sends a signal to your body saying, we need to get ready to fight. Right? We need to get ready to protect ourselves, right? And so you might see some of these physical manifestations of our feelings, right? That shaking, the tense muscles, the tunnel vision, the heart pounding, all of those things. It's a physical response. And what happens in our brain when we have this physical response is that our midbrain says, we don't need to be able to think and learn. We just need to be able to get safe. And it kind of cuts off our connection. It's like we have no internet, right? We all know what that's like. So we have your internet connection lost for a few minutes even, and you're just frantic. Like, how do I get back? How do I get back? And then all of a sudden you're panicking, right? That's a lot like what's going on in our brain when we're feeling unsafe, is that our internet's down. We don't have connection to those thinking, learning parts of our brain. And our kids can't learn if their internet's down. They can't. They cannot learn if they don't feel safe and comfortable, because it's a physical response to not feeling safe and comfortable. The parts of our brain work best when they work together. And if we're stuck in our midbrain, in this amygdala hippocampus area, we're not able to access the thinking, learning parts, the parts of our brain that help us to be really great students. We can't access those parts. It's a physical response. What's the key? Relationship and connection, right? Making sure our kids feel safe and comfortable is how we're going to help them to become better learners when they re-enter the learning environment. That's how it works. Again, all this research that I've done, that the recommendations that are coming out through in articles that are published in places like EdSource, which is read by educators all across the country, is that schools can't combat the effects of the pandemic until they deal with the social emotional needs of what our kids have right now. We have to remember they've been away from their peers and teachers for more than a year, and many of us have experienced terrible hardship during this pandemic. So expecting them to come back into a classroom and be able to attend to learning, to be able to really truly engage in that learning environment, we're asking more than they can give us. We need to connect first, right? They need to connect first. We need to deal with those social emotional needs. And again, back to Dr. Bruce Perry, if our kids have regulating and rewarding set of experiences, they're going to go to school ready to work. So they have to have those regulating, the kind of, when we say regulating, that means we're calming those physical feelings, the physical manifestation of our anxiety or our discomfort, our stress, our feelings of being unsafe, right? And we're getting back into that place where we can think and learn, right? We're calming those responses, okay? And we feel connected. And this is the way it works for us too. It works the exact same way for us. If we don't feel connected, if we don't feel safe, if we don't feel like we're sure of what we're doing, our midbrain goes into hyper gear and we can't use our thinking learning brain. If we're escalated and not thinking in our thinking learning brain, we cannot calm our children, right? We have to be able to calm ourselves so that we can calm our children. We have to be regulated in order to help them to regulate, right? And that's how they're going to be ready to learn. We can't make our kids behave better if they feel worse. We have to help our children to feel better so that they can behave better, okay? We have to help them to feel comfortable so that they can learn. Same thing. All right, so what are some of the tools? You guys are probably like, come on, Liz, just get to the tools. We're good with this. First thing I'm going to ask you to do is we have to remember we have to press the pause button. We have to take the time to understand what our kids are going through, what we are going through. Because and this is going to help foster that connection, because when someone feels like we're listening to them, when our kids feel like we're really listening to them, they're going to be more open to listening to us, and we're going to get further, right? We're going to be able to have more of those learning moments, more of those connecting moments that help our children get ready academically to learn. First thing you have to ask yourself, are you calm enough to help your child feel safe? Listen, this is a tough one. If you're feeling rushed, like you're rushing around panicking about what this is going to look like when your kids go back to school or what's going to happen, your children are picking up on that. You have to be calm enough to help your children feel safe. And some of these things that we're going to talk about are great tools for you as well. Okay, so these are not just tools for your kids, these are tools for you as well, because we know that our kids are mirroring, they're modeling, they're picking up on how we feel. We can't control what's going on, but we can start to prepare, right? I cannot tell you exactly what it's going to look like on that first day of school, but I can give you some tips and some tools that will help you to prepare your kids for school. First thing is what you say matters. What you are saying, even when you think your kids aren't listening to you, they are listening. Trust me. You might think they're not listening, they're listening to you. So unless you're in a soundproof box or out of the house far away from them, they can hear you. And what we need to do is make sure we're choosing safety-based language. We need to present things and talk about things in a way that makes our kids feel safe. An example of threat-based language is pretty much just turn on the news and that's what you hear, right? Everything is meant to scare us. Everything is meant to kind of put fear out there. Oh, well, okay, maybe not everything, most things, right? We can flip that and make sure that we are presenting things in a safe way, that we are presenting things in a positive way, things that make our kids feel safe. Our fears and anxieties actually spill over onto our kids. And over time, they will pick up on that and be less positive, right? They'll start to be more pessimists instead of optimists. And we know that when kids have an optimistic view of things, they view challenges and obstacles as something that they can overcome, and they're way more likely to succeed. Versus a child who's constantly hearing threat-based languaging and has pessimistic views, they see things as impassable, right, or impossible, and they're more likely to quit. So what we are saying to our kids is going to make a really big difference with how successful they feel when they get back into a classroom. If we're positive, they're going to feel like they can do it, right? And that helps to calm that midbrain and get them back into their thinking, get them to stay in that learning brain. What are some things that are safe messaging? Simply, it's going to be okay. I know that sounds a little sugar-coated, but if we just say things in a way, yeah, you know what? This is hard right now. Acknowledge that it's hard, but we're going to get through it. We're going to be all right. You're safe, right? Turn off the news. I know that we need to know what's going on, but we also need to kind of monitor when we listen to the news, who's listening with us, what they're hearing, okay? That's a big part of this. Those of you who have been with me all last couple of years, I've said this a million times, right? Be careful, monitor that newsfeed. Be careful when you're turning it on. Be careful what your kids are hearing. Our nonverbal messages matter too. So if you're telling them, yeah, no, we're safe, we're good, right? But you still have that panic in your voice, they're going to pick up on that. Strategize a positive attitude or outcome, excuse me, right? We can figure out how do we do this so that it comes out in a positive way? How do we work on this? Safety mantras are just things that we say over and over to ourselves or out loud or with our kids. We are safe. I am okay. I can handle this. If we say that over and over, the same way that we say stop, like the first exercise we did, and feel I'm ready to get back to work, that's a mantra. You're telling your brain what you want it to do, what you want it to believe, okay? And that changes how we think. Want to make sure we're connecting, checking yourself. Again, that's that nonverbal and making sure your safety-based messaging. Have an I can attitude, right? It's called agency. Or self-efficacy, right? Having a can-do attitude. Be a helper. When we help, it's empowering. It makes us feel like we can, right? It reinforces our skills and our ability to make change. We have empathy, understand. We're going to talk more about empathy in a minute. But when we cannot overdo empathy. In every situation, empathy is a good idea. Understand, because that helps to build that connection. When we understand how someone else is feeling and let them know, I hear you, I get you, right? Because we've got this. So that's the first tool, is this safety-based messaging. The second tool that we all have that we can use is getting back into the routine. I know my kids are 24 and 28 now. My daughter will be 25 in a week, so I'll have to start changing how I talk about that. But I'll have to remember to say 25 and 28. But when they were in school, summertime, the routine changes. Bedtime wasn't quite what as strict as when it's school time, and the routine's different. We get up when we want. So, but every year, when it was started to get time for the school year, right? About a week or two before school started, we would get back into our school routine, right? We started getting back into bedtime again. We started getting back into waking up at a certain time, right? And we started doing some tasks that helped us get back into a routine. So we can start doing that with our kids now. Start getting them back into the kind of routine that we're going to have during school. Because our brains love routine. Our brains are so happy when we have a routine, because our brains know that I know what comes next, right? Our brains are able to say, I know what's happening next, and I can then do it, right? Which means that we feel safer because we know we don't have to guess, right? Guessing what's coming next makes us feel unsafe and not in control. Behavior then will also become less of an issue because the expectations are clear, right? And then you see more cooperation. That's how routine can be such a positive tool for us, because we're creating predictability. And predictability is a happy place for us, for our brain. When we create predictability, when we have predictability, we feel safe, and then we're able to connect. We're able to be good students because we can get into that thinking, learning part of our brain. All right, the next tool is get as much information as you can about what it will look like. I cannot go through every school and tell you exactly what the procedures are going to be, or where you're going to drive up, or how, I can't do that. We don't have all that information. I certainly don't have that information, and I can't, make it personalized for each one of you. Unfortunately, I wish I could, but go get the information, read all the school bulletins, go to all the meetings, get ready, get prepared, read everything, talk to people, and find out what's that going to look like. And knowing what to expect is going to help us to feel safe. It's going to help us to feel like we can predict what's coming next, right? Because when we can predict, our brains are predicting machines, and we make predictions based on our past experiences. So what we can do is give our kids some of these new, practice this experiences. We're going to talk about that in a minute, so that when they predict, they have some information to base it on. If I'm trying to predict and I don't have any experiences to base my prediction on, that causes me to feel unsafe. It can cause our midbrain to go into hyperdrive and our thinking learning brain to go offline. That internet can go offline. And maybe your kids are going to ask you some stuff that you don't know. And that's okay too, because it's okay to tell our kids, I don't know. Let's look it up together. Let's try to find out together. Who do you think we could ask? Let's work on getting, right? Make them part of this process if they have questions, right? That's empowering. That helps build that self-efficacy. That's that can-do attitude when we can look at it together. Once you found out everything that you're going to be able to find out, then talk about it. All right, so how does this make you feel? How do you feel about it? What are you thinking? What are your concerns, right? Talk about it. Let your kids know what to expect so that they're not caught off guard, so that they're not caught in a surprise. Because, right, that's going to trigger them to go into fight, flight, or freeze. That's not going to help them to stay calm and feel connected, right? So talk about it. Let your kids know what you know when it comes to that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, you're going to, I don't know, have to have your temperature taken every day, but that's okay. Mommy won't leave until daddy won't leave until you're in and everything's cool. Yeah, everybody's going to have masks on. That's the way it's going to be. What can we do to practice, right? What can we do to make that more comfortable? If our kids are having a hard time talking about it, one of the things we can do is just check in with them. There's so many tools. I love emojis. I talk about this a lot. I love emojis for this purpose because some of our kids who don't have words or who can't really put their finger on what the word is for how they're feeling, some of us as adults as well, right? You can show them the emoji and say, okay, which one are you feeling? And then you can put words to it and then you can talk about it. There's a lot of different tools for that. If you look online, you Google, just check-in tools, you'll see a lot of this stuff come up and you can use whatever tool makes the most sense for you, whatever feels most comfortable for you. But if they don't have the words, it's okay. Show pictures. Have them draw a picture of how they feel and show you, right? Show me how you're feeling. But when you talk about these things, you want to start the conversation in a positive way, right? Not, I can't believe you actually are going to go back into the classroom before they go, whatever it might be, right? That you're saying, start it on I'm so excited you get to go back to school. This is so great, right? So start it on a positive note. Use active listening skills. When we talk with our kids, it's very important to remember that our ears are way more important than our mouth when we're having a conversation with our kids, because we need to be listening. We need to be listening to what they're saying, both verbally and non-verbally. And so use those active listening skills. Encourage, yeah, oh, I hear you. Oh, yeah, okay, right? So to encourage them to keep talking. Regulate your own emotions. You gotta be in control of what you're feeling, right? If you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling really agitated, not the good time to have the conversation. Wait until you're calm. Wait until you feel regulated. Wait until you've got your own emotions in check so that you can be emotionally present for your child. Help them to express their feelings, but don't assume that you know how they're feeling, right? That goes back to that listening thing. Listen more than you talk. Let them talk, tell you how you might be surprised. You might be assuming they feel a certain kind of way, and then they share with you that, no, you're absolutely wrong. That happens to me a lot, actually, with both of my kids. I'll go, oh yeah, I know how you're feeling. And then they'll go, well, actually, this is how I was feeling. And sometimes I'm like caught completely off guard. I'm surprised. So listening is a better way to learn how our kids are feeling. And then validate their feelings. Don't validate that they're right in their facts if they're not, but validate that I hear that you're having this feeling. I recognize you're feeling this way, right? Let's not judge that. Let's just validate it. Let's hear it. And then we can work. If it's based on misinformation, then let's work on correcting the information, but don't make them feel bad about having that feeling because of the information they have, right? And then end on a positive note. We always want to walk away from a conversation feeling good, right? Feeling okay. So make sure you end the conversation on a positive note. Play your way out of that. Maybe joke your way through it. Let them know that the door's open. We're talking about that too, but right. So end on a positive note as often as you can. And then of course, reassure them that their feelings are normal. It's okay to feel this way. That's why I shared with you at the beginning how a lot of people are feeling over the last year and a half or so, right? A lot of us are experiencing overwhelming feelings that are causing us to not be able to sleep well or not focus. Those feelings are normal. So let our kids know that those feelings are normal, right? It's okay that you're feeling this way. There's probably a lot of other people who are feeling this way, and that's okay. One of the other things, the next tool in our tool shed is practicing, right? There's a couple ways that we can practice, but practicing what the day is going to look like, practicing what drop off and pickup might look like based on the information that you're able to get, right? Mental walkthroughs. Talk about it. All right, let's just talk through it. I'm going to get out of the car. There's going to be somebody there to greet me. They're going to do a COVID screen. They're going to make sure I've got my mask on. Maybe before we get out of the car, we do a little hand sanitizer. What's the routine going to be? And then walk it through. Walk through mentally. Rehearse it. Walk it through mentally, right? Talk it through. Yes, your teacher's going to have a mask on. Your friends are going to have a mask on. You're going to be asked to stay far apart. Maybe lunch won't be in the cafeteria. Maybe lunch will be outside. Right, so we can talk about that. So mentally walk through based on what you've learned, what can be expected. And then maybe you even want to take it to the next level and do a rehearsal, right? Get in the car, drive to the drive-through, get out of the car, kind of walk around and get comfortable again with the school environment. Maybe you want to pretend to do a COVID screen, right? Have a clipboard or a thermometer and do a COVID screen, but walk through it, right? Walk through like having the lunch in your hands. What does that look like? Carrying your lunch in. How are you going to do this? Not sharing food, right? Things like that. Like physically, don't only do a mental walkthrough, but do a physical rehearsal, right? This is how this works. And then I love this image of the iceberg because look at all the rehearsal that goes into being comfortable and happy and a good performer during the show. Okay, so that's an important piece. And we've talked about mantras. We can have mantras for our kids as they're getting ready, right? It cultivates a sense of well-being, of being a positive. So maybe you want to come up with your own mantra for your family. We are safe. We are okay. May I be well. I am happy. Mom's going to be here. Things are going to go well today. Whatever your mantra might be, because in that way we help build that positive thinking, that positive attitude. And then after, right, we've got this school thing, or even after our practices, and definitely after our first day, and after every day of school, it's a good thing to debrief, right? Debriefing just means that we talk about what happened. How did that go? How did you feel? What did you learn from that experience? How does this relate? What if this had happened? Or what do you want to do next, right? The talk about what happened after it happened or as you're doing it. Like maybe you did a rehearsal and you want to talk about it, right? How did that go for you? What can we do differently? How can I make you feel more comfortable? Or maybe after the first day of school, we want to keep doing that debrief. I know. Sometimes we get our kids, right? And we're like, how do we get them to talk? How do we get them to talk to us? So hard, right? How was school today? Fine. What'd you do at school today? Nothing. I love when my kids used to tell me, what'd you learn? I would say, what did you learn at school today? Nothing. I'm like, then you don't need to go back tomorrow. If you're not learning anything, let's just forget this. I was joking, of course. They both went to school, but right? It's kind of my joke. Okay, well, if you've learned nothing, but is it the question we're asking or is it the answer, right? When I look back on those days when I would say to my kids, what did you learn in school today? I realized that was a dumb question, right? It wasn't that my kids were giving me a bad answer. I was asking a bad question. So if we ask questions that lead them to want to answer us or that are actual conversation starters rather than kind of a grilling, then we'll get more. We'll get more out of them. Be curious, right? It seems to me that you're feeling sad because your friend wasn't back in school today. Or, oh, I wonder, are you trying to tell me that you're feeling disappointed because your day didn't go the way you thought it would go, right? Whatever it is, what was it like for you? Is a great question. They have to actually answer that. Or, oh, what did you mean by that? How did you handle that? Okay, how else could you have handled that, right? Give them the opportunity to talk to you. Again, use your mouth less and your ears more. Because our kids just need some empathy, and that's helping them to feel felt. We want to make sure we're recognizing and acknowledging their feelings so that they can know that we feel them. We understand, we're in it with them. And then once you've done the walkthrough and or maybe you've done the mental walkthrough, or maybe the first day of school happened and things didn't go on your end as well as you'd like them to, adjust and make changes. It's okay that that didn't work. Let's figure out a different way to do it. So often, I think that as parents, we keep trying the same thing to make that work, when really what we should do is throw that plan away and come up with a new plan, right? And that's okay. You don't have to have the same exact plan every day. If that plan didn't work, let's figure it out again. Let's start from scratch. Let's figure it out again. So that's another tool, is that you can adjust and make changes. Figure out where your speed bumps are, right? If you know that every day at a certain time you run into a tantrum, or you run into a kid who's just melting down because they can't do it anymore, then switch up what's the 10 minutes or 15 minutes is leading up to that, right? Or maybe even more than that. Figure out what's leading up to that, and then back up and make a change so that you don't lead into that. It's okay. Not everything's going to work. Your teachers, you watch them all do this on their Zoom school or their Google Meets school, when they were like, okay, that's not working. Let's try something new, right? It's okay. We all do that. We all try something. If it doesn't work, there's no shame, right? It's like, many of you are familiar with the game Yahtzee. You pick up the dice, you put them back in the cup, and you reshake. Like, it's okay. We'll do it again. And then, of course, you've got to repeat, repeat, repeat. These are not things that you're going to do one time. This is kind of like the parenting mantra, isn't it? Repeating ourselves all the time, doing same thing over and over again. It's kind of just the definition of being a parent, is repeat, right? Do it again. But our kids need us to do that. Like one mental walkthrough is probably not going to be enough. Maybe 2 dress rehearsals are not enough. We have to do it again. And maybe we adjusted, and now we need to adjust again and again and again. It's okay. We're just going to keep doing all of those tools. Just keep using all of those tools over and over again. And then leave the door open for later, right? Let our kids know, okay, we're done talking about this for right now, but if you have a question, please know that you can come back to me, right? Please know that I'm here. We can always start this conversation again. We can always ask when we get more information or different information, or if things change, we can talk about it. So leave that door open. Make sure your kids know that you have an open door policy with that. And depending on the age of the child, right? What does that look like? If you have more questions, come talk to me. And then and then if our older kids, we can go, hey, if you need me, I'm here. However that works, right? Because all of our kids' behavior is communication. All of our kids are trying to tell us something when they behave a certain way. Our kids cannot come to us, especially our littlest ones. They're not going to say, I'm really having a hard time right now. Not sure how to cope. Can you please help me? That's not how it's going to happen. They're probably going to act out or behave in challenging ways, which is essentially their way of saying, I'm having a hard time right now. And it's our job to be a little bit less mad about what they're doing and a little bit more curious about why they're doing it, right? So we want to be less furious, a little bit more curious, and look for what their behavior might be telling us. What can we do to help them in that regard? We can sometimes give our kids a minute. We help them to feel seen, because all of us need to feel seen, safe, and soothed. And when we want to make sure our kids know that we are seeing them, we give them a minute. Let them have a minute, right? Everything doesn't have to be in the here and now. If they need a minute to calm down, if they need a minute to think, if they need a minute to formulate the sentences, let them have it. It's okay. Go back and talk to them. The flip side of that is, if you need a minute, it's okay. I'm going to walk away. I'll be back in a minute, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, but I will come back and we will talk about this. I just need to calm down. Great modeling. Great modeling. We help our kids to feel safe when we listen to them openly, right? Use those tips, the tools I mentioned when we talk about how to be an active listener and how to listen with empathy, right? And to understand. So that's how we make our kids feel safe. And we soothe our kids when we understand what they need, right? What you and I, right now, I just need a hug. Okay, come here, right? Let's do this. Or right now, I need some time alone, and that's okay. So that's soothing. When we give our kids what they need, we're soothing them. And giving them what they need or soothing them doesn't always look the same for every kid in every situation. You kind of have to be ready to figure out what does my kid need right now, so that they can get calm, so that they can feel safe and connected, because that's going to help them to be prepared to go back to school. Some other things that we can do, I kind of talked about some of these already. Remember, the relationship is number one. We want to just connect and listen, acknowledge their big feelings, don't minimize. Big one coming up right now, right? With our kids, we don't know what they're going to encounter exactly when they go back to school, and they are having big feelings, and they might say to you, I'm feeling a certain kind of way. And we don't want to minimize that feeling, right? If they're saying, I feel scared, and you're like, no, there's no reason for you to feel scared. Well, that's kind of minimizing, isn't it? There's no reason, but I feel scared. Well, there's no reason for you to feel scared. That's kind of minimizing. It lets our kids know we don't think your feelings are valid. Instead, we can say, hey, I hear you, right? I'm going to acknowledge that you're feeling scared. And then I'm going to listen to you talk about how. We're going to talk about what it is. We're going to name it so that we can get control over the feeling, right? I'm feeling scared. Okay, scared is the word. Let's talk about, what does it feel like to feel scared? Let's talk about exactly what you're scared about. But don't get hooked. If they say that they're scared, we don't want to meet them with us being scared too. We want to meet them with, I'm your safe place. How do I help get you to feeling safe, right? Getting hooked is when they go, that kid put sand in my shirt. And you go, that kid put sand in your shirt. Are you kidding me? I'm going to go find that kid's mother. That's getting hooked. That doesn't help the situation. Sorry, it doesn't. I used to get hooked all the time. And it never helped, right? The best way to handle that is, wow, that must have made you feel a certain kind of way. How did you feel? How did that make you feel when that happened? Oh, that would have really bothered me too, right? That's terrible. Talk about it. And then be present. You got to put your cell phones down, everybody. We got to close the computer, close the laptop, turn away from the sink. That I do it all the time. It's one of my big struggles is I need to remember, I can't say I'm listening to you if I'm tip-tapping on my computer and I'm looking at my phone and I'm checking my watch at the same time. And then you come in the room and I say, okay, just keep talking. I'm listening. I'm not really listening. I can't. I'm doing 3 other things at one time, right? So be present, stop, turn, make eye contact, or at least look at them in the face so that they know that you're really listening. It feels so good to be listened to. Doesn't it? Doesn't it feel great when somebody puts their stuff down just to listen to you? It feels good. And so we want our kids to have that experience too. And that's going to help them feel safe. It's going to help them feel listened to and connected, which helps get them ready to be academics again, to get back into school, to be active, successful learners. Be playful when you can. Be playful all the time. Play is how our kids learn. It's how they make mistakes. It's where they can try new things. It's how they can work things out for themselves, right? When we play, offer our kids opportunities to play. And then remember that our kids need 12 hugs a day. And when I say 12 hugs, I don't mean they need actually 12 hugs. You know, we all do actually need 12 hugs a day to thrive. We need 12 hugs a day to be able to feel safe and connected so that we can go about our lives at our maximum capacity, right? At doing our best. All right, so what kind of hugs can we give our kids? We can give our kids physical hugs. Obvious, easy, right? Verbal hugs, like, hey, I see how hard you're working over there. I like it. You're going to really succeed because you're working so hard. Verbal hug. A visual hug might be a smile or a wink or a thumbs up, right? Hey, got you. Or, I got you. Whatever maybe you have a physical code for your kids, right? That can be a visual hug. Environmental hug can be leaving a Post-it note. Hey, wishing you a great day at school today. I'll be thinking about you. Love, Mom, right? And that kind of set up the environment. That can be something that you can do as an environmental hug. Do something in their environment. One of the examples I always use is that My daughter lives, about an hour away, and sometimes she comes over and decides that she's going to spend the night instead of driving home after dinner or whatnot. And I always, when she spends the night, try to have fresh flowers in her room. Environmental hug, right? I knew you were coming and I prepared for you, and I want you to know that I'm happy that you're here. That's what those flowers are saying. So those kinds of environmental hugs. Acts of service, at least I hope that's what my daughter thinks they're saying, because that's what I'm trying to say to her. Acts of service. Do you think we can do things for one another to help? Maybe you notice that your kid's studying super hard for a test or working really hard on a project, and you say, okay, I know it's your daily chore to take the trash out. I'm going to do it for you today, right? Or I'm going to fold your laundry because I see that you're working so hard on something else. Whatever that is, an act of service. And then quality time together. Spend that one-on-one time with your child. Spend that time where you put your cell phone down, close your laptop, and really are present. Go shoot some hoop. It doesn't have to be an expensive quality time, trip to Disneyland. Not that we could necessarily all do that easily anymore, but right, it's quality time. Take a walk. Go get a Slurpee. Go kick the soccer ball around. Spend a few minutes in one-on-one quality time with your kids. That's another way that they're going to feel safe and connected. It's another way that we can prep them in a social emotional way to be ready to go back to school and be good learners. Remember, a little bit of empathy goes a long, long way. You can't overuse empathy. You can't be too empathetic. Empathy makes everybody feel connected, seen, and safe with you. Okay. All right. So I've got my next activity that I have for us, mindfulness activity, is called imaginary hugs. So unless you have, we're going to move into some two mindfulness activities, I think, coming up. Anybody have any, at this point, I'm just going to say, anybody have any questions? I don't see anything in the chat. Maria, thank you for putting your info in the chat. I'm sure Rosie will grab that and make sure we've got that recorded. But you could also go into the chat and add that. I'll put that link. The link's right above there, so you can put that link in there. Okay, so imaginary hugs is the activity we're going to do right now. And so I want you to just, again, like we did at the other one, get comfortable, kind of notice where your body is grounded to the earth. Maybe you can feel your bottom in the chair or your feet on the floor. I'm standing, so I can feel my feet on the floor. And then I want you to just think about what it feels like to hug someone that you care about. Just think about that. And then relax your body. Do what you can to just relax your body. And while you're relaxing into that, imagine a place where you would like to visit with your friends and family, right? That person who you imagined hugging, where do you want to take them? Where do you want to be with them? Maybe it's the park. Maybe it's on a beach somewhere. I don't know. And then while you're doing that, send friendly wishes to those people. Give yourself a hug now. Put your arms around yourself, grab your arms crisscross, and just give yourself a hug. And imagine while you're hugging that you are having fun in that peaceful place. Next, as you squeeze yourself even harder, give your loved one an imaginary hug. Who would that be? That you're in your imaginary place with them and you're hugging each other. Spend a few breaths thinking about that. And now I'm going to ask you to reach your hands up to the sky. Take a deep breath. And as you lower your arms, exhale. Take one more long, slow breath in. And now let it all out. Okay. One last mindfulness exercise before we end for today. We have 1 minute to do this. And this is one of my favorites. What is your favorite color? Maybe it's blue or orange or purple. Maybe it's red. Just think about right now, what is your favorite color? And as you think about that, I want you to imagine a little ball of that favorite color inside your body. Maybe you've got it in your chest where your heart is. Maybe it's down low in your belly. Maybe you've got it on top of your head or right behind your forehead. Where is that color? Just imagine it there. And as you take a big deep breath in, I want you to imagine the ball getting bigger and bigger, bigger, until it takes over your whole body. And as you let that breath out, I want you to imagine that everything all around you is your favorite color and how good and warm that would feel. And then I'm going to ask you to take one more long, slow breath in. Hold it for a second. Now let it all the way out. Let it all the way out. All right. That is from my favorite book called Breathe Like a Bear. It's a great mindfulness activity book for our kids. And for us, I use the exercises in here all the time. Like as you can see, that favorite color one's pretty easy to do, and it feels really good. And it's not just for kids. Breathe Like a Bear is not just for kids. Okay, questions, thoughts, comments? No? I hope this was helpful. I hope that there are some tools that you'll start using now to start getting our kids ready to be active learners in the classroom. Remember that the focus right now needs to be on their social emotional needs. They're not going to be able to learn if they're not feeling comfortable when they go back to school. So we've got to work on our end to help them feel comfortable. Your teachers are going to be working on that as well. Trust and know that. I know that we're going to have a really wonderful school year. Or really, whatever comes our way, we are going to have a wonderful school year. Okay. If you ever need to reach out to me or are interested in, we have a question that you don't want to ask right now or in the chat, there's my email address. Please always feel free to email me to reach out to me, to contact me for anything. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Rosie.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning. Thank you, Liz, Jeff, and Rubicela.